This is part 3 of modeling a simple flashlight, and we are going to finish the modeling in this video here. So let's have a look at what we've got. We've done the basic handle part here, and we added these pieces. Now, there's something we need to notice about this. If I come over here and I click on the viewport overlays, face orientation, you'll notice that this section is in blue and this section is in blue and this is in red, and that means that our polys are facing the wrong way, and this is not going to work right. So I'm going to select this, and I'm going to press tab to go into edit mode, A to select everything. I'm going to press Alt to N, and that's going to bring up our normals dialog box, and I'm going to choose recalculate outside. Now I can deselect and go back into object mode and deselect everything, come back to viewport overlays and turn off that, and now these are facing the right way. Okay, now there's something else that I like to do down here in order to make this stuff look a little bit better. Whenever I do a pattern like this, all right, I like to do something on here. And so what I'm going to do, this is going to change things just a little bit. So I like to come into here, go into edit mode, and you can see that I've got an edge right here, and I've got an edge right up at the top. I'm going to hover over this middle section and go Control R to bring in an edge loop and click. Left click and then right click. I've still got it selected, and I want to make a space here and pull these pieces inwards a little bit, and I think it'll look a little bit better. So I'm going to show you what I mean. With that edge right there, I'll just zoom in a bit more. I want to split this edge so that one edge goes up and one edge comes down. So I'm going to go Control B to bevel, and that will actually allow me to pull like this. And you can see they're splitting. And I'm going to pull just like this to about there. All right, so I've got an edge down there and an edge up there. I'm going to have to adjust the position of these, and I will in a minute, but with that still selected, like that. Okay, I'm going to press E and left click, Alt S, that's going to scale, but along the normals, and I'm going to pull down, and I can hold shift, and I'm going to move this in a little bit like this. So I've created like an indented area here. I'll come out. Now I can take these pieces. I'm going to press 1 to look from the front. And I think I want to bring my 3D cursor in line with these. So I'm going to go Object, Set Origin, Origin's Geometry. And that moves my transform tool, my move tool, whatever, right to the middle of that. And I'm going to move these up a little bit, and then I'm going to press S and pull in so that these are inside that little depression. And I just find that looks a little bit better. Now, let's go back here and make sure everybody is blue. Okay. This is looking a little bit pointy, not that round, and that's because I started with a cylinder with however many vertices. I think it was 16 or something. And if I want to, I can now put on, instead of the bevel, I can put on a subdivision surface to make it look a little smoother. I'm not going to do that to this middle piece, all right, because I want these the way they are, and I don't want too many polys. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to hide the bevel, turn it off essentially, and then I'm going to come and put add modifier, subdivision surface, and let me just minimize the bevel, and I'm going to click 2 levels, and that is going to look, I think, a lot nicer for this end piece. Now the only thing is, when I look from the front, this piece may have shrunk down a little bit, and so what I'll do is I'll select both of these, and looking at my just looking at my flashlight. I'm going to press S, and I'm going to just pull. Let's see. What would be nice is if we had the 3D cursor or our gizmo tool on this, because if I scale, you can see the dotted line is pointing up to this area where the center of this thing is. So I'm going to select this piece, set origin to geometry, select that, and that'll just scale a little bit nicer. I'm just going to make this bigger. And again, because it's a separate piece, it doesn't have to be the exact same size. All right. I'll just move those in a little bit more. Okay. So I just think that looks a little bit nicer. And now that I've got a subdivision surface on, I might want to add another edge loop in here. Control R and pull down just to sharpen this edge up, make it a bit more visible. And you can decide if you need another one up near the top. Sometimes we'll do that. And let me focus on just that by pressing the slash key and decide if I even want an edge loop here. I'm not sure I really need that. But what I might need is an edge loop right here. Let's press the slash key, bring that back. I just think that looks a little bit nicer for that piece there. And when we turn on the cavity shader, you will see that it looks even better. All right, so we still have this area here is not perfectly round on this piece. And that's because of the way we made these end up here. Okay, at any rate, let's move on and bring back the reference image and start working on the top part here. You can see that this piece here is a little bit bigger than my piece here, and that's great because that's like the top that's going to screw on. Instead of bringing in a new cylinder and starting to shape that, we could take a piece of this cylinder and use it to build this, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to select my main body here and go into edit mode, and I'm just going to tilt this a little bit. I'm in edge selection, so I'm going to shift alt and click that edge right there, and I'm going to duplicate this edge, copy it, and then build this top part out of it. So with it selected, I'm going to press Shift D and left click and pull it up so that I see it. It's a separate piece from here, but I need to separate it so it's actually a separate object. So I'm going to press the P key and choose selection. Go back into object mode by pressing tab. Now I can select that, and it's a separate object. It also has the bevel on, so that's good if we choose to use a bevel. So let's press 1. Let's go into edit mode, and A to selected. 1 for vertex selection. I like to do that because then I can just see the edge a little bit better. And I'm going to bring it back down here. I'm going to actually bring it to about there. And S to scale it out a little bit bigger. We'll just start with that. Let's press E to extrude and left click and now pull it up. We'll come up to about the top here. Okay. Let's press Z to go into wireframe mode. And now I'm going to start adding edges using Control R. And we're going to try to round this out. So Control R right in the middle, left click, right click to accept it. And let's press S to scale and pull out. And this will pull out the vertices all around. All right, I want to go in all the directions and bring it out till it looks like it's roughly at the end. Let's add another one here and do some more scaling. Just click wherever it falls, let it be. S to scale to follow the outline of this. So it comes up, that's looking good so far. Let's do another one here, Control R, S to scale. Just pull it out. Let's now shift and alt and click that S to scale and pull this out a little bit better, like this. And then pull it down a little bit if we want. We're going to round this in the end. And we want this edge kind of similar to this one. We're going to do something with this top. Let's have a look at that in solid view. We can right click and shade smooth. So it's starting to look pretty good. I'm going to do something at the bottom as well. Okay. Let's go back into wireframe and edit mode. What I'd really like, let me hide this, is to actually have this top piece as a separate piece to this. All right, so it looks like this piece would screw onto the very top, and then we'd have that one. You know, and this piece maybe has the lens in there, and that could maybe be replaced. Okay, let's Alt-H, bring that back. So what we're going to do is, in number 3 face selection, I'm going to Shift-Alt and click that. That selects all of the faces of this top part. And I think I'm going to break that out. P, separated by selection. So now I've got that as a separate piece, and now we can use that. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to select those 2 pieces. Press the slash key. With those 2 pieces selected, I'm going to press E and Alt-S and pull. And that's going to give this some thickness. But I'm also going to add some edge loops on here to tighten this up. I'm going to press Control R and slide an edge loop up near the top and one down near the bottom, like this. And I'm going to do the same right here, up near the top, down near the bottom. And I'm getting some weird shading going on. So I'll look at that and I'll notice, my faces are flipped. So with them both selected in an edit mode, Alt-N, recalculate outside. And now I have this. I think this would look better though with the subdivision surface on. So I'm going to hide the bevel. In fact, I can get rid of it. And I'm going to add a subdivision surface of 2 on this. And it's the same on this guy. And now it's looking a little better. However, we need to add a couple more edge loops. And the reason I'm doing that is because if you look at this, this is very rounded. And it doesn't look so much like a flashlight. But if I come in here, and on this top part, I want to make it a bit flatter. I go Control R, click, and drag in. Maybe another one, Control R, click, and drag out. It starts to look flatter, a little bit more like a flashlight. I'm going to hide that by pressing H. And do the same thing here. Control R and drag in, and do another one here. I'm not dragging all the way to the end. Just Alt-H and bring that back. That's starting to look better. And I want to just decide, and let's H to hide that. If I want to do something on the bottom here, this piece that joins, I'll do another one. Control R in and out. Alt-H, let's have a look at that. Okay, and that's the effect that I get. I'm going to have to do one down at the bottom here as well. Let's select this. Control R out. Control R in. Let's press the slash key to bring that back and just have a look at how this joins. Now, I've got a subdivision surface on this and only the bevel on this part. And so the joining may not look as good as it could. Let me select both of those and just press S. Oh, Let's bring the 3D cursor to this piece. And not the 3D cursor, but the transform tool and gizmo. Let's select both of those. And let's just scale here. This one, let's do that as well. That's the scale, just to make it a little bit wider. And we have that. Now, if you don't like just the way that joins, you can try to make a little ring that covers that, but I think we're okay. Okay, let's just globally look. It's all blue. Its faces are facing the right way. Let's do this. That's our flashlight so far. We're not really going to see on the inside, but what we could do is add a piece of glass to this. Let's do it like this. Instead of bringing in a brand new circle, let's go into edit mode and just choose a circle, edge selection, number 2. Shift Alt and click one of these rings. Shift D, let's pull it up. Let's break it out. P, separate by selection. Go back into object mode and select that. Go into edit mode. Let's pull that back in now and just press F to make a face. Let's turn off the subdivision surface because we created it from this. It inherits any modifiers. Let's just do that. But let's look here. It's red. Let's select it in edit mode and Alt N, recalculate outside. If that doesn't work because it's just one plane, go Alt N and choose flip. Now the polys are facing out. Let's turn that off. And we have our piece of glass in there as well. Make sure we save. Now, we are almost done our flashlight. The last thing we need to consider is number 1. H to hide is some kind of a switch. And I don't think I really feel like doing this style of switch. I want to do something a little bit more retro or a little bit more, well, old-fashioned. And I think it'll look just fine. And so I'm going to put a switch on here with a different style. I'm going to come into edit mode, and because I'm going to create a switch right here, and I'm going to do it using some new, another primitive anyhow, another plane, I'm going to, in edge selection, select that edge, and I'm going to bring my 3D cursor right to there. That will allow me to bring in my plane or cube or whatever right up here, right in the area of the switch, instead of down near the bottom. So I'm going to select that edge, and I'm going to press Shift S and choose cursor to selected. Now my 3D cursor is right on what I selected. Deselect and go back into object mode. So my 3D cursor is there, and that's a lot better for when I'm going to build a switch. I'm going to do it right there. Shift A, mesh, plane, go into edit mode, and let's rotate this RX, rotating the X 90 degrees, so it's sitting like that. Let's press S to scale. And I'm just going to choose a size that I like. I'm going to scale in the Z. SZ allows me to constrain my scaling to the axis. See the blue line? Now I'm scaling only in the Z. And I'm going to create SX. Just a region here. This is the border of the switch, really. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to pull it out a little bit. And I'm going to extrude it in. I'm going to press E to extrude, left click, and pull it in the Y until it joins the body. And I'm going to press X and faces. I deleted the back face. I'll show you. See, because I don't need it. It's inside the body. I'm going to take this piece and we'll try adding a bevel. Go up to 3 segments. Choose 0.01 or 2. Right click and shade smooth. And that's going to be the base of my switch. Okay, that piece there. And I can still adjust how far in I want it. Maybe I want it a little bit out. And I'm going to build the switch part on top of that. All right, it's just going to be a thing that you push up and down like those old-fashioned flashlights. All right, cool. Save. Save, save, save. I still have my 3D cursor right there, so I'm going to bring in another plane. Shift-A, Mesh, Plane. Go into Edit Mode, Rotate X 90. Scale. Let's pull it out in the Y direction like this. Press the period key, and that will zoom in on what you've got selected. SZ, lengthen it. Let's look from the front. I don't want it the same size. SX, I want it roughly like an inset, roughly like that. Now what I'm going to do with this piece is I'm going to have a part of it that's kind of flat, but it's going to come up like a hill. So I'm going to show you something new. I'm going to Control R here, click, and I think I'm going to Control B to split it like this, pull it out a ways, and then roll my mouse up one. Left click, and let's deselect. So I beveled this edge, and I added a new one. I'll do that one more time. Okay, let's get out of there. Got my plane. Now I could go like this and just roll my mouse up, and I could get 3 edges. They'd be equally spaced. That's fine. But I'm going to Control R, click, and then choose the bevel, Control B, pull this out as much as I want, and then roll my mouse up one. I'm just going to do that. Just however much you want. It's trial and error. Okay, so what am I going to do with this? Well, I'm going to select this edge. I'm in number 2, edge selection, and if you're not, it doesn't really matter, but I like to do an edge selection. I'm going to select this, and watch this. I want to pull this out like this. All right, and that's fine, but I want to round this a little bit more. And so I'm going to have that edge selected, hold down Shift and select this edge and this edge. And now I'm going to Control B again to bevel, pull like this, and roll my mouse up 2, 3. Get it a little bit smoother, like that. Deselect. Now I'm going to select the whole thing, and I'm going to extrude backwards to give it some thickness. E, come down in the Y, but it goes like this. So let's straighten it out here in the Y direction. Let's go S, Y, 0. That will flatten that out. Pull it down a little bit more, but let's delete these bottom faces because they're going to connect to here. I'm going to move it in a bit. So let's go X faces, A to select it all. Just bury it in there a little bit more. All right, so I've got this kind of a thing. I'll do a little bit more on this. Let's come in, and in edge selection, Shift and Alt and click there. Shift and Alt and click there. And let's Control B and pull to bevel that. Let's go 1, 2, 3. Click. Let's also bevel this upper edge here by Shift and Alt and click it, and the lower edge, Shift Alt and click that. And let's go Control B and pull a certain distance. Just don't pull too much so that the edges overlap. Let me show you that closer. If I Control B and I keep pulling, right there they cross over. So just pull it a certain amount so it's a pleasing roundness. Look at that, just like that. Okay, one more thing I'd like to try is put an edge here, Control R, and roll up 3. Oops, and just accept the position. Down here, same thing, 3. Select all these, hold down Shift and Alt and click. Find these 3, Shift, Alt, and click. We're going to do that bevel again. Zoom in a bit, Control B and pull roll your mouse down to 0. So you just have a space like this. Click. Okay. Now we're going to do that E and Alt S technique. Extrude to create new geometry, and Alt S to scale along the normals. E, Alt S, and let's push or pull. I'm going to do pull. Pull them in like this a little ways so that you have a little bit of a space. Now it's starting to look a little bit funny. So we're going to come over here and I'm going to add bevel. And it's debatable about how much. I usually like to go up to 3, 0.02. And I'm also going to add, in order to fix up this geometry a little bit, how it looks. I'm going to switch this to angle. That's looking pretty good. We can try to add weighted normal and auto smooth. And hopefully that looks all right. Let's make sure that our polys are facing the right way. And as you can see, my entire switch is backwards. So let's select both of those, go into edit mode, A, Alt N, recalculate outside, and that should make it look better. Turn that off, and there's my switch. I can turn that off as well. So, I mean, I don't know how realistic that looks, but that's what I'm coming up with for a switch. Okay, and that brings us to the end of the modeling. All right, and at that point you can make sure you got the cavity on. You could try shadow if you like. You could try a different matte cap. All right, I may have some different ones from you. Let's see what might look okay. Now it's the old army one. So how do my statistics look? 35,000. So it's certainly not a low poly flashlight. We've got a lot of polys in here, and we have the bevel modifier on. We've got a lot of polys in here, and you know, we put on a subdivision surface. We added a little bit of detail down here, you know, with this, with, you know, putting that other edge in there and pulling these in to make it look a little bit better. But that's what we come up with for our flashlight. What's left is to put some materials on there, and we'll try to do that in the next video. So I hope I didn't go too quick, and I hope you're enjoying the flashlight.